Yo, up, what is up? Long time no see. We got a lot happening going on right now. But I gotta honestly say, man, I'm happy to be able to be here. My name is Gifty Bailey. We got a great show. We're gonna be talking Melbourne Rugby. A lot is happening down under. Australia Rugby losing a pro team. New Zealand Rugby could be completely crashing out altogether. We got unpaid payments with Kenya Rugby. We got HSBC 7 relegations. We got dope jerseys for charity with Houston. Y'all, we got so many stories and more. But for right now, man, let's just get us into that intro. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time.
Welcome to the Rugby Swag Show.
Welcome to another episode of Rugby Swag. My name is Gift Time and Bailey, and of course, this is a show where we get to talk to people about opportunities they found, created, and taken advantage via rugby while keeping you up with all the rugby news that's happening, y'all. Man, this is a great one. Look, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a very chaotic couple weeks, not in a negative way, man. You know, as you guys know, if you don't, I got a baby on the way that's literally coming in within the next couple days, and we have been adjusting and trying to figure out everything that's going on from there. But before I get into that, I need you guys to please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button over on YouTube if you guys can. On podcasts, absolutely let your friends know to be able to come through and be able to pay attention so they can get up to date on what's going on within that rugby news. And then, of course, you guys can absolutely follow us on social media at Rugby Swag on Instagram, at Gift A Bailu on X or Twitter, if whatever it ends up being now. And of course, you can find us at Gift Time Rugby on all other platforms. That's Facebook, that's YouTube, that's TikTok, Twitch. And if you want, you can also do it on Instagram, y'all. And of course, like we always say, you know, we do not limit to what's happening on the video. We like to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. So if you don't feel like being able to sit and just watch, absolutely check us on any of the streaming platforms happening. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google, which is now YouTube Music, and basically any major, audio platform that you can have going on, y'all, because we want to be where you are. Y'all, I have to say, like I was trying to say before, I got a lot happening. These next couple of weeks are going to be equally as chaotic, just to give the heads up, because we have the baby coming in. It means I got to put my attention for the next week or two on them and then, get back into the groove of things. So it's going to be a little bit off. Obviously, today is a different day. Usually these will come out on Wednesday, but again, I'm going to be doing as such. On top of that, of course, I'm not going to maybe be fully disconnected. If you guys go to our Instagram page, I will probably put more one-story videos on as opposed to doing the full podcast. So it allows you to be able to still catch up and maybe get some explanation of what's going on, even if you know about it. Sometimes the depth of it gets kind of lost, and we want to be able to make sure we're there to be able to explain that one always. So if you are not on, I suggest to go subscribe, and I'll probably drop those a little bit more throughout the next couple weeks, just to be able to keep everything up to date and just keep the attention going, because there's a lot always happening. Obviously, these last couple weeks has been an accumulation of news, and I think it's been quite spectacular, to say the least. And I'm very happy to be able to go ahead and talk about that. But of course, before we get into our next story, our first story of the day, we got to take care of those that take care of us. And I absolutely impound you. I don't know, impound you is the wrong word. I implore you to, you guys, go check out healthenhancedfoods.com. Man, this is the place where we provide specialty flours for specialty dietary needs. Whenever you are needing to be able to get at your best, and especially as rugby players, we want to make sure that we are playing at our best with the best set of nutrition to be able to handle what we do best on the pitch. We want to make sure that you're eating correctly, and these flours are absolutely going to take care of you for that. A variety, 17 products, and absolutely worth the watch, worth the eating requirement. You can find it at healthenhancedfoods.com. We'll talk a little bit more on it. But in the meantime, right before we get to it, I just want to let you know where let's go into what is happening in Australia. Another pro rugby team has dropped off the map. That is 11, it feels like, in the last 2 years. And what does that fully mean? We'll be right there. Let's get back after this commercial break. I'm going to let you get back to the show in a moment, but I want to talk to you about our sponsors, Health Enhanced Foods, the best specialty flours in the business. What does that mean for you? That is the flours that allow you to be able to get the nutritious need from your bread made. That's muffins, bread, croissants, whatever, pancakes and muffins. It will give you the opportunity to be able to get the best while still being able to eat like you wanted to. We have various amounts of products available for those who have special dietary needs to those who are looking for a special health outcome. And of course, because they're part of the Rugby Swag Show, we want to let you know that you got a chance to go to healthenhancedfoods.com and use code Rugby Swag to be able to get 20% off your first order. Y'all, this is something that you're going to need. You got to build up, have your energy at the best, be the maximum. It's 2024. Let's do the best. But now I want you guys to get into it. Let's get back to the show. All right, y'all, man. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. So we got our first story. You guys have probably heard this one, but man, it is still a significant major hit in Super Rugby. Super Rugby is a professional league that is going down in the South Pacific, involving Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, and Fiji, of course. And it was the news that the Melbourne Rebels will not be continuing on through next year. A huge, huge hit to the program, a huge hit to Super Rugby, but one that is a really interesting story and setup of how poorly managed these teams are and exactly how much the financial restitution is just not there. Now, obviously, this was announced just a few days ago. Australia Rugby said that Melbourne Rebels would no longer be able to participate. They're no longer wanting to fund this team. They're over it, and it seems to be based off of the fact that there were a lot of broken promises that were going on for me. So kind of let's put some background into it if you don't know. So first and foremost, it was about 5 months ago where the Rebels actually were already in desperate financial strait. They were actually about $23 million in debt before they entered into voluntary administration at the beginning of January. But since then, whenever they were coming back from a loss against Fiji on the final rounds this year, Rugby Australia said, we're not doing this anymore. And it looks like it has been something that has been building up for years. Australia Rugby seems to have been inputting money into this team for a long time, even though this team, the Rebels, started back in 2011, but they've never been financially stable. They have been consistently an issue. They've been consistently incapable of being able to get their lives together, basically, right? Like they haven't been able to get their lives together. And so I think after this 23 million in debt and they went into it, the idea was that the Rebels were going to come up with a plan, what they called a consortium was supposed to come up with a plan to actually find a way to be able to get some new injection of money and to be able to find stability, as opposed to taking all these grants that have been applied to them from Rugby Australia and from these elements. And there was a lot of talk, apparently, that goes along with this Rebels team, saying they have some people, man, they're getting stuff ready. They have about 18 million in funding that they were about to get together. And looks like it was all fugazi. So Rugby Australia said, you guys are not doing it anymore. You guys clearly don't have anybody on the side. You keep talking like you're trying to delay us. Like, we know what's going on over here. So, yeah. You guys can't do this. Y'all can't hold up. It's over. But this is something that has a little bit of a lasting effect. Apparently, Melbourne Rugby is in the Rugby Victoria area where a lot of financial interest goes. Obviously, like I said, this pro team has been around since 2011, so it's a pretty long-standing team in all intents and purposes. Um, but you also still have the stakeholders that are in that area. That it's an area where they are still considering to be able to put the Rugby World Cup over in that spot. It is a place where the women's Melbourne Rebels are still in existence. The youth side is still something that needs to be worked on. And it's a place where a lot of money has been invested, especially as according to Rugby Australia's chief executive officer, Phil Waugh, and chairman Daniel Hebert. They basically said, like, yo, we've been put like 13.8 million over there over the last 6 years. You guys have done nothing with it. And essentially, they are finding themselves still in desperate straits, but they still have an intention to be able to continue to work with that region. Okay, so giving you the background, giving you the information, what is my thoughts on all of this? Look, this is once again comes back to what the state of rugby has been. All right, we obviously saw this just over the course of the last 2 years between the loss of the London Irish, the Worcester Warriors, the LA franchise, and the Giltinis, the Gilgronis, Rugby Atlanta. We have the loss of Wasps. And just again, this consistent trend of teams, the Toronto Arrows, a consistent loss where the revenue does not match what is being put in, and a lot is being supported. Now, obviously, in the U.S., it's not overreaching in the terms of USA Rugby funding, except for with the anthem, and that's technically World Rugby, but funding the entire professional element. Whereas in Australia, it seems to be very heavy, and especially in a place that is constantly losing to rugby league in that same spot. But it seems like this Australian government, this Rugby Australia has just, it's had enough, and they are barely holding on for dear life. They still have the issue of trying to be able to figure out how to establish their great grassroots. Again, they're losing a ton of players. Basically, that country is a rugby league country versus a rugby union country. It makes sense. And again, it goes back to what is it that rugby wants to be able to have? What is it that rugby is trying to do? Because that's what's affecting how it's making its money. Obviously, you have small populations, but very endearing ones within the South Pacific. But whatever it is that is your contracts, you're not entertaining and you're not developing. This is something that happened. Obviously, we see that within England, a lot of misdevelopment. Wales is dealing with their own financial security because they've overstretched where their budgets and everything like that. So it's not something that is unusual, but it's getting way too common. And that constriction is not being solved by good ideas. It just seems to be more borrow money, borrow money, borrow money for another time, and then eventually hope that something comes through. And it's just not. It's not. You're not winning the game. You're not playing this responsibly. And again, this isn't an area where rugby league is literally having its heyday. It is reaching some of its peak levels that it's never reached before in the past. And they are just not keeping up. Rugby union in Australia is not keeping up. And we'll see more of this. There's still even complaints, and this is not even going to probably stop anytime soon because you still have issues that are happening in Super Rugby in terms of funding in New Zealand and subsequently just within the rugby league, which we will talk about shortly. But let me know what you guys think about this. Knowing what you've been hearing about Australia and seeing what's been going on, like what do you feel is going to be the issue that prevents another rugby club, another pro rugby club from shutting down? Basically, you just have top 14 that is almost holding it down. Premier Rugby is hanging on by a thread. And obviously, the addition of South African teams in the URC adds a bit of challenge. But again, is it bringing in the revenue? South Africa right now isn't getting paid by TV deals. So, there's still the chance of what are we bringing to the table when it comes to the actual value prop and how that involves with the community. But I want to know what your guys' thoughts are, man. Where do you guys feel with it? But That's my thoughts where it goes from there. All right, y'all. Let's move on to the next story over here as we talk about the other side of this situation where you have the NRL. All right. You got the NRL that has absolutely been killing it in the rugby, what do we call it? Conquering of Australia and the development within the South Pacific region. Obviously, we've talked to people that do rugby league over in the US, and obviously Northern Britain has an element of it as well, but nothing has been as strong as Australia, and it looks like it's not stopping anytime soon. Because in this moment, we're finding out that the rugby league, the NRL, the National Rugby League, is receiving a $600 million injection from not their governing body, from the country of Australia itself. I want to take a look, show you guys a video that basically gives a little bit of an explanation. Give me my moment. Give me my moment.
The NRL is considering all bids for expansion as they look to continue to grow the game. Australian Rugby League Chairman Peter V'landys is meeting with the Australian government today to continue to explore the chance of a team in Papua New Guinea.
We're at very early negotiations with government. There's still a long way to go. It's no done deal. And there's some very good bidders in Perth and Christchurch and even here in Brisbane. So it's far from a final decision. Look, all the bids are fantastic, and it just goes to show you how good the game is going at the moment, that everyone wants to be part of it. And look, the Premier of Perth, I'm taking an AVL out on him. He rings every day asking to put the Perth team in. So there's no more passionate supporter than the Premier of Western Australia. So their bid is looking very, very good. And the people of Papua New Guinea to get engaged, you've got to have the team in Papua New Guinea. For me, having it in Australia, it's not really a Papua New Guinea team. And we've got to take the game to Papua New Guinea. There's 18 million people in Papua New Guinea. And look, the whole purpose of this is to provide support to all the areas of Papua New Guinea. Kids don't go to school. And if you don't go to school, you don't get educated, and that causes a poverty cycle. And what we're going to do is provide rugby league players to go to the schools. And what that does is actually compels kids to go to school, because they want to go to school, because they want to play rugby league. They want to see the rugby league heroes. And if we can do that through our game and help an emerging nation, we will do it. But we've just got to get the negotiation right. So it's more than just an NRL team. This is actually helping Papua New Guinea.
So as you can see, there is clearly the advantage that they are trying to do that goes bigger, and which is why the Australian government comes in. This, I think, is one of the biggest things you could actually ask for in rugby, because of the fact that it has a huge effect in being able to get support from your country and politicians, and then, of course, your ability to be able to grow. Australia putting the 18th team in the NRL, going out of Papua New Guinea, massive. Absolutely massive. You can't take that away. And it's not stopping there. Obviously, they're trying to continue to rise around the South Pacific and then be able to grow out from there. And utilizing education is a direct benefit for not only the universities over in Australia, not over for the government body, for the government itself in Australia, but it also provides a community support, as was explained, to the people in Papua New Guinea. So it makes rugby into a tool and a value center. And again, we're talking about rugby league, for total economic growth, which is all that's being asked. That's how you show value, and that's getting presented out of here. This is nuts, and I'm surprised that Australia Rugby Union hasn't thought of or hadn't worked on something like this before. Again, it could be a factor of the size has been too big. It's been a factor that they're not getting enough of what they need from it. But like this is a massive endeavor that's happening by the NRL, and this could absolutely change the game in how rugby is getting performed in the region and the market share. All right. The NRL is one of the wealthiest rugby focused leagues in the world. I think it's just below top 14, and top 14 really is just funded by a bunch of billionaires that just have money to lose because of the way the tax system in France seems to work. Rugby league actually seems to be getting a serious amount of money from their TV deals. I think they received last year a revenue of about 800 million, with more than 50 million as a part of the as 50 million as a part of the what do you call it? Their profit. So like for me, I go into this and you go, what? How do you not try and copy this? But give credit where credit is due. Now, the money is obviously 600 million over 10 years, 60 million a year. Basically, they've already said that the deal is basically done. Papua New Guinea has confirmed that they got a new license for NRL, and it is reported that federal government is basically already set, and the pathway is already being used to be able to get stuff into the South Pacific. So, shout out NRL for doing what nobody seems to be figuring out how to do, creating value, utilizing rugby as a tool overtly, and finding the way to get the support. I remember talking to, I think it was Paul Sheehy, and he was like, one thing that needs to be done in rugby in the US has been the factor of we need to be able to get political aspects. It's been advantageous for the NFL. Over 60 years ago, it was what allowed them to be able to make money as an NFL under a nonprofit, where they didn't have to report any profits and they just had to make sure that they were exactly break even, while simultaneously the individual franchises were able to make their money, and allowed it to grow exponentially. NBA has been able to do it. Like the biggest sports have found a way to not just win the audience, but they win the law simultaneously. And this is one. Now, mind you, there's been a lot of pushback that has come with this. There's a lot of Australians who are not happy about the money that's being spent and felt like this should have been put somewhere else. Another particularly that this was announced the same day. This was announced the same exact day that the Melbourne Rebels were shut down. So it is kind of a big deal overall, where money costs one team, but is gaining a whole other league at the same time. And you got to love that for a bit of irony going into all this. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know where you guys are feeling on this one. Like, do you feel like this is something that needs to be replicated? Is there something to be able to glean from the situation that allows you to be like, okay, maybe we can copycat this? Like I said, I feel like it's something that needs to be done across the board. But, again, it's tough to be able to do it if you don't take the effort, or nor do you have the understanding of your own value, or don't get you get in your own way because you want to be traditionalist. But that's just me. All right, y'all. We're gonna be right back. We're still gonna talk about what is going on in New Zealand, because they are literally falling apart. We'll talk more about it. This is Gifted Bailu with Rugby Swag. We'll be right back.
Buckwheat is changing lives. My name is Gifted Bailu. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen free, it is nut free, it is dairy free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.
Welcome back, y'all. We said we got a lot of news that is happening this week, and this was one of the biggest ones that I think happened over the last couple weeks, and again is about to make some monumental differences in how New Zealand rugby is run. Now, if you guys don't know, there has been a huge clash in the development of New Zealand rugby over the last couple of years. A lot of it started after the capital, oh my goodness, what do we call them? The people who give money to take control of companies. Capital, the people who give capital, not banks, people who give capital. Silver Lake injected about 160 million into New Zealand rugby because they were literally running out of money, definitely after the pandemic. And it has created a huge issue because there has been a bunch of separations that have occurred where now the provincial teams and unions are conflicting with New Zealand Rugby Union as well. And that is impacting New Zealand Rugby Players Association. And this all is essentially talking about how these will all connect together. Now, if you guys don't know, New Zealand Rugby Union basically runs everything: professional rugby, the All Blacks, the provincial teams, the union. So everybody, all under one banner, all under one hood. But there has been such an emphasis, especially as of late, especially after Silver Lake injected the money and they got a share, a very significant share of New Zealand rugby. The focus has gone very heavy into the All Blacks, right? Very, very heavily into the All Blacks, to the point where there's a lot of people that are feeling like New Zealand rugby at a grassroots level is legitimately dying. And I've talked to other New Zealanders about this before, where they were saying, yo, it is not the same. Everybody thinks New Zealand rugby is rah, 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 and everything works out great. But it's not working out right now for them. And at this moment, New Zealand rugby is at a risk of not being able to exist the same way over the course of the next 10 years because they're not getting new participants in. People are going to other sports, cricket, netball, etc., like that, because they do not feel like rugby is getting a good look by the New Zealand Rugby Club. So New Zealand Rugby Union. And so a massive battle has come out where basically the provincial unions are saying, hey, you guys are taking too much money and you guys have started to mess with the tradition and we do not have enough say in this, and we want more say to this situation. We want to make sure that not only are we able to control our stuff, but the professional side is being taken care of on its own, not through our money. They take care of themselves, and subsequently the All Blacks are taken care of, but on their own, and that this commercial entity that is called New Zealand Rugby Incorporate LP, commercial LP, is not going to be impacting us directly. So it has been legitimately a battle, and a lot of this is being headed up by Dan Patsy Reddy, who is the chairman of the New Zealand Rugby Union, New Zealand Rugby, as it may be. So the issue is there has been two proposals that were put out, and the proposals, which the voting block is massive on this. We're talking almost 90 voters on this. to be able to see how is there a way to be able to bring a compromise that was based off a board review that happened back in 2023 that reviewed over New Zealand rugby. I'm gonna put it into the comments. You guys can find it over at newzealandrugby.com .co.nz/governance review and be able to get the full listing of what that governance review, and it's not super interesting. I'm not going to pretend, but it's very endearing to see how much has been impacted and where New Zealand rugby is at, despite the mythos and that New Zealand rugby's had, the success that they've had. They're literally struggling. They are struggling right now. And obviously, we know the small population, but it is a struggle. So, based off of this review, New Zealand Rugby wanted to create an element where there is better equitability in the governing body, the governing board members, as well as a little bit more interest by the other stakeholders, the professional rugby, the provincial unions, the national teams, etc. So they they created a proposal. All right. I want to kind of go over a little bit of proposal. I'm gonna pull up the sheet, but I'm gonna be honest with you. It's super long. It's super long. Not the most interesting thing in the world, but I'm gonna read off the parts that I think were probably best for this. Give me one moment here. Okay, so the initial one, this is proposal one, that was based off of New Zealand rugby, basically said they wanted to create a separate entity, the New Zealand Rugby Board would be comprised of 9 independent members. All right. Hold on, let me make sure I get you guys right. 9 independent members. All right. Independence would mean that the board members are not currently holding any affiliated body or any affiliated position with any rugby body. That's Super Rugby. That is the Players Association, not employment with New Zealand Rugby in the office. Nothing. It would be people who are directly coming from the outside, and it would make up the 9 people that make up the board. Um, After that, there would be a second group known as the Stakeholder Council. They would be a cross-sector, almost a consultative group. They're not going to be making the final decision, but they will be able to have a say in enforcing or in helping the decision making that the New Zealand Rugby Board would make. And the stakeholders would be established, made up of 12 representatives from all the different parts of rugby. So it'd be 3 from the provincial rugby union, 1 from the Heartland Championship, 2 from the NPC union representatives. And then you would have 1 that's a representative of New Zealand Maori Rugby Board, 1 representative of the New Zealand Super Rugby entities, 1 representative of the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, and 1 representative of the Tausa Fa'atasi New Zealand Pacifica Advisory Board, advisory group, or independent Pacifica rugby entity recognized by the NZR and affiliated bodies. And then 1 of representing the New Zealand Rugby Foundation, which would be there. So essentially kind of give a little wide range of everybody to be able to kind of get a taste of what's going on and to be able to have a say in it, but not necessarily a controlling stake. The independent rugby board would be all appointed. So, and they would essentially control what was going on within New Zealand rugby. But the idea would be they would be unbiased towards any one side, right? That was what was proposed by Dame Patsy Reddy. And she said, even after that, she was like, look, I believe so much in this proposal that if it gets denied, if it gets voted down, I'm willing to step down from my position as chairman of the board on here, just because I believe in this so much. All right. Now, on the other side, which I mistakenly thought this was the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, but it's not. This is just the unions themselves. And they put together their own proposal, Proposal 2. Let's bring that up real quick. All right. So Proposal 2 basically works just slightly differently to them. And it's not slightly, it's actually pretty significantly different. All right. So basically what they said was they wanted to have the board made up of representatives from all the parts. All right. Representatives from everybody. So you got 3 representatives from the provincial union, being 1 from Heartland Championships and 2 from NPC, similar to the Proposal 1 that represents the New Zealand Maori Rugby Board, 1 that represents the foundation of New Zealand Super Rugby clubs, which is the Blues, the Chiefs, the Hurricanes, Crusaders, and Highlanders. And then with the New Zealand Rugby to call for a nomination and to undertake a postal ballot that would allow the nominees to be able to now represent individual positioning. So 1 representative of the body representing professional rugby players, 1 representing the Tausa Fahatasi, New Zealand Pacifica Advisory, and 1 independent chair who will be appointed by the members themselves of the governing advisory panel to enter in. So you have these members that represent everyone, and they all have a controlling stake in New Zealand rugby, according to this proposal. All right. And the idea was that they wanted, including that there was already pre-lived experience, at least 2 years that was mentioned in experience to be a governing board member. On top of that, yeah, so it was basically that. We don't want a consultory side. That was Proposal 2. We don't want a consultory side. We want to be the primary decision making on this, and it be affiliated with all of us, which is a little bit closer to what they have right now. Allowing there, I guess, essentially to be some levels of bias in voting because everyone wants to essentially base their own way. But it gives them more stakes in the game, and they have to make their decisions according to that. So both sides play very heavily into each other. And the catch with this was for New Zealand rugby, that proposal number 1 was absolutely detrimental. It is absolutely detrimental to the contingency of allowing New Zealand rugby players to be able to continue, because the New Zealand Rugby Players Association said if we don't go, and this is from Rob Nichols, who is the head of the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, essentially said, yo, if we're not going with Proposal 1, we might have to go ahead and separate ourselves from New Zealand Rugby Union altogether. We will move ourselves out to a different entity. This is a big deal because the majority of the money comes from the TV deals that the All Blacks do. The commercial deal that New Zealand did, where the venture capitalists, which is the word I've been looking for, in Silver Lake, goes and it went to funding that. It went through the New Zealand Rugby Union, but the All Blacks were the primary. And this became the big issue. And so when it came down to it on May 30th, there was a special general meeting that was supposed to happen. And that general meeting essentially went, oh, we're going to take our votes on both of these. Proposal 1 was voted down by the unions at a 59-31 voter rate. That is massive against that proposed leadership, which essentially is going to just say, hey, Dame Patsy Reddy, you might not be, you better hold up to your promise and step down, because there is no way that we want to consist with that. But of course, then on the other side, the unions voted 69-21 in favor of their own proposal, with at least three of the board, with the expectation that three of the 9 board members that would be on there, that are all representatives from the different sides, come with 2 years of experience. And look, this is one of those situations where I understand
They're the wheat flour that you can eat. My name is Gift Time in Baylor. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods. And I want to tell you about one of our best and most beloved products, our sweet white wheat baking mix. Now, this is the baking mix for those who are not really looking for something that's gluten-free, but they are looking for something that they can eat that is going to still be healthy and is not going to be dangerous. White flour is typically a very processed, incredibly bleached flour, and it's not good for you. It's incredibly cheap for a reason. Our sweet white wheat bread mix is whole grain, dairy-free, high in dietary fiber, free of additives, and is absolutely unprocessed and unrefined. With our sweet white wheat bread mix, you can feel like you're getting all the same rewards that you would get from poor white bread, but with all the nutritional value. You're able to still make your bread loaves or your cakes, your flat bread or your cookies, but you don't have to feel like you are going to be robbing yourself of good carbohydrates. You can get the sweet white wheat bread mix from healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely go impress your friends and family with the greatest bread while not making them feel like they have to be gluten-free at the same time. No dangers, full body pleasures. Go ahead and get yours today. Let's go. Don't you love a great ketogenic family? My name is Gifte Belu. I'm here with Health Enhanced Food. I wanted to talk to you about one of our top baking mixes, and that is our ketogenic baking mixes. We got a ketogenic seed baking mix, our ketogenic almond baking mix, and of course, our ketogenic coconut baking mix. Now, what is so important about it being ketogenic? Now, for those who don't know, ketogenic means that it is utilizing low carbs to be able to eat from. The point of it is so that your body will naturally activate burning from your fat and be able to sustain off your proteins rather than feeding your body carbohydrates and your body simply burning that and you just don't lose weight. And so whenever you're doing that process, it's incredibly difficult. And of course, you're always going to have a craving for wanting to eat the breads and the carbs that you typically would have. With our keto baking mixes, you can have the pancakes, the waffles, the cookies, the cakes, the pizza crust that you absolutely desire without sacrificing the work, your diet, and obviously the results that you are trying to get. All our ketogenic baking mixes are gluten-free, grain-free, plant-based, and absolutely loaded with natural vitamins and minerals. We want to make sure that they are low net carb, they have no added sugar, they are protein rich, they have good healthy fats, but even more importantly, they have a
Low
glycemic level. So for those who are diabetic and you're also still trying to find something, we have the baking mixes that are for you. And I'm sure you're wondering, why make 3 versions of them if they all are basically doing the same thing? Well, we wanted to make sure, as always, that we are trying to specialize to your dietary need. So with our ketogenic coconut, we wanted to give you a version that allows you to have a sweeter bread without sacrificing your diet. But it provides you things that you can make with your cakes, you can make your cookies, but you can be able to not have to lose your mind trying to find things that can satiate the taste without ruining your diet. With our ketogenic almond baking mix, that is one that has probably the highest protein content. It allows you to be able to control your blood sugar levels, reduce your blood pressure, lower cholesterol levels, and of course, it goes to promoting weight loss and being able to control the hunger. And for our ketogenic seed, this is for those who have a nut allergy and they can't take anything like the almonds. So we want to give them still the same thing. You can still make your bread. You can still make your pizza crust. You can still make your cakes and your buns and your muffins, but you don't have to worry about having an allergic reaction. You definitely can go check out the ketogenic line of products at healthenhancedfoods.com. Go ahead, keep up with your diet, get the foods that are necessary to keep you going, and let's get the results that you absolutely deserve. Let's go.
Many Lionesses have been unpaid for wages for Sevens events, and then of course the Africa Cup, where there were rumors that they may cancel their last match against Cameroon. They did go forward and play that match, but they're not paying their members and their national teams for the duties, and they've got to work this out. Any Lionesses have We shared this story last summer about Fijiana not receiving wages for their national team duties, and it appears after the Singapore Sevens event that there was another snafu. Evidently, the airport in Singapore closes quite early, and so it was a little bit of a perfect storm, this situation where the manager who would normally take care of accommodations for the team wasn't available. It was at another event, and the assistant coach also at another event, so it fell to the head coach who didn't understand the requirements of this airport and the extra night needed. So the team slept outside. This is unacceptable. The FRU, of course, has apologized only after photos came to light, but this cannot continue to happen to our women's teams. It is unacceptable.
finest. We came to play. We the Saber
The best defense in the league.
Houston. Saber Cats.
Houston have been knocking on the door for the longest
Saber
time.
Cats.
They just bash away.
Saber Cats. Houston. Saber Cats. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. We here to win. Never know we finna play. We don't do it to pretend. Yeah, we in. Anyone get in the way, we finna do it again. No, we up. We finna get in a scrum. Who you think is finna try? Get the
All right, I don't want to hold you guys off. I know it's another ad. Watch out now. But I need to tell you guys about Rugby Outlet Mall. Look, this is the official e-commerce store for Rugby Swag Show and for Gift Time Rugby Network. And of course, we want to make sure that we are hooking you up with gear that is absolutely built for you to be able to wear on a day-to-day. Of course, we can do jerseys, and everybody has a jersey, but not everybody wears a jersey every day. But we have the rugby gear for you. Whether it is our FedEx best or our PayPal best, we have unique designs that are going to be fun and desirable for you to represent the way that you need to. And of course, if you guys go to rugbyoutletmall.com and use the code Grow Rugby, we're going to save you 10% off your first order. Hey, please support Rugby Swag Show. And of course, even some of our other stuff, the HBC Rugby Classic, and just general gear and merch for you guys, because hey, I want you guys to have the best, and I definitely appreciate you guys supporting. So definitely go rugbyoutletmall.com, use promo code GROWRUGBY, GREAUX Rugby, and you will get 10% off your first order. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, and let me let you get back. Cheers.
Ain't it funny? The sun's never out when you're alone. no friends to call as your own. A little of shadow is all I ever know. But you know, the sun will come out tomorrow. So I'll pay you back tomorrow. A little of pennies is all I ever owe. I'll sit by and watch the sky tell my today with clouds of gray. Tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. Stop shouting about today. The sun will come and dry your tears away. Tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. God is watching your sorrow, but there's no sure tomorrow. Today. Tell her that you love her, oh yeah.